All right. Well, I guess welcome to everybody, and thank y'all for joining us for another installment of our Styles L.Hutchins Fellows, and they're with us tonight. Look at this great group that we see on the screen. Let me before we talk for a minute about Styles L.Hutchins, I just want to acknowledge another important moment in our community that happened today, and that is that we announced that we'll be the first community in the country to provide no-cost, ultra-high-speed broadband to every family with a child on free or reduced lunch for the next 10 years. I see LaQuisha clapping. I'm going to assume, since she's the only one I can see doing that everybody out there is clapping. Okay, Irvin, thanks so much. It doesn't mean Kadisha as much when you have to beg for it. LaQuisha did it on her own, but I think this is a great moment as we think about what equity looks like in 2020 and what it means to truly provide opportunity for people which is obviously a piece of what's going on with Styles L.Hutchins Fellows, that we also acknowledge this amazing Chattanooga partnership. And thanks to EPB and to the county, to the school system, and of course to the foundations, including the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee Foundation for their help in making that happen alongside the Enterprise Center. So let's turn to Styles L.Hutchins. And for those of you who this may be one of your first initiatives or programs with them, let me trace back to the beginning. We did a bunch of focus groups a few years ago with Black Chattanoogans, asking them, what do you think that we could do to make sure that we are cultivating, retaining, and recruiting Black talent to our community? And this was probably back in what seems like 20 or 30 years ago, but was probably 18 months ago or so. And it was actually out of the one that we did with UTC and the BSA there, that some of the staff came out and said, you know what we got to do? We got to do some kind of fellowship for UTC students to make sure that they're giving us information about how to attract and retain our best talent. And of course, this is critical for a couple of reasons. Number one, if we're going to grow economically as a community, we have to make sure that we are cultivating and promoting all of our talent and utilizing the unique skills of every one of our residents. And we know that for centuries that we have systemically discriminated against Black people, and so we've got to figure out how we involve each and every one of them in our community. The last, of course, couple of months with protests and reckonings of racial justice have brought that to the fore for a large part of America, but this is something that we've been talking about for quite a while. And of course, the second piece is city government and the community has been talking about racial equity now for quite a while. We've put together our own internal processes, and so it's the right thing to do for our community. And we found so many partners who have come alongside us and have been doing the work for a long time. And you see here our partners in this work, the Urban League of Greater Chattanooga and the Chamber. I know that our fellows have spent a lot of time with them, and then our funders, Benwood, McClellan Foundation, Unum, and the Community Foundation. Nobody should be surprised by any of these. This is like the regular crew. They always show up for things. And then, I want to call out for just a minute UTC, because they've just bent over backwards. The chancellor was super excited from the moment that this came up, and really has loved hearing from the fellows. And so we really appreciate UTC for their work. And I saw chat messages from Dave Steele before we got on. So he's one of our most enthusiastic helpers. So I want to thank him as well. So let me just tell you my experience with the fellows is, if there's anything that tells you that we need to do more to retain Black talent in our community, it's spending time with the 7 fellows that we've had so far, because I want each and every one of them to be part of our community. The first cohort did incredible work. Kadisha was part of that and then stayed on with us for this cohort 2. And then we added Irvin and Eric and Ty, and they've really done phenomenal work. Just to tell y'all how bought in they are to this, we got started with them in February. We went out to lunch, had a great time. We're like, we're gonna spend the next few months together. Awesome, so excited. And then all that happened was, global pandemic, economic crisis, tornado. I can keep going. And so we gave them the choice. You can sit and do nothing and get paid, or you can get paid and do this work a little differently. And to their incredible credit, they chose to do the work when they didn't have to. That says everything about these 4 people that you're going to hear from in just a few minutes. So they've contributed a lot to our community from the work that you do. I hope that for those of you who have already participated, we say thanks to y'all. For those of you who haven't yet and are looking to do so, please come part of it. There's a number of people from our advisory board. Wow, that really worked well. Whoever, Candy or whoever is doing the slides, you really got to the right slide at the right moment. So we see our advisory board members. Thanks to y'all. These are once again the typical crowd that steps up for everything, and so we really appreciate you. But you'll hear some requests at the end for how you can get more involved, and we'd ask everybody to do so. So as we get started, I'm going to turn it over to LaQuisha in just a minute, who of course it seems like in every meeting somebody tells me, I was talking to LaQuisha, she's helping with X. It doesn't matter what it is. Maybe it's a public works like drain project or something. Somebody brings up LaQuisha and tells me how she's part of the team for this. So I'm going to turn it over to LaQuisha in just a minute. But before I do so, let me just say once again, there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done in our city, in our state, in the Southeast, in the United States of America. And the BLM movement has proudly proclaimed that Black Lives Matter. We've written it on Martin Luther King Boulevard. We see, the reckoning that our country is going through with racial justice, and that is critical. So we got to do the work. There's no substitute for doing the work. And I'm so proud of these four men and women that you're going to see tonight. I thank them for their piece of doing the work, and I promise you, I really have gotten a lot out of listening to them. So with that, let me turn it over to LaQuisha.
Thank you so much, Mayor Burke. Thank you for your vision. Contrary to popular belief, I'm not everywhere because my bed misses me often. So I'm not everywhere. But thank you for your vision, for your administration's vision to be intentional about placing diversity and inclusion at the forefront of your work. I've certainly been it's been a wonderful experience being a part of the advisory board, working with these talented young people that you're about to meet. Some of you maybe for the first time, some of you it may be your first time getting to hear them. They are some amazing, bright, brilliant students. And so we should all be focused on ways that we can do better work in our city and working towards keeping and retaining Black talent, such as these amazing young people that we're going to hear from tonight, definitely has to be at the forefront of all of our thoughts, regardless of industry. Tonight, just a little housekeeping. I think it's so important that when we get to hear, listen, I have a 19-year-old and 22-year-old brothers who still reside with me, one who is also a mock. And what I know is when you get them to open up, to share their thoughts, to share their brilliance, you should have a pen and paper readily available because they're going to share some things with you that maybe you haven't thought about. They're going to share insight from a generational perspective that none of us can actually say we sit, being that many of us are 10, 20, 30, some 40 years older than these young people. So I want to encourage you to take notes tonight from these young people. Place any questions or comments that you may have in the Q&A field. We won't be using the chat feature tonight so that we can remain focused on the discussion, but we really want to hear your thoughts and your feelings around some of the things that they're going to be talking about. So even though this is a webinar and it feels a little static at times where we don't get to see you and you can only see us, the Q&A feature is what kind of keeps this thing moving. So if you have a comment, if you have a question to a specific fellow or someone you want to answer directly, please preface that in your question in the Q&A section. Mayor Burke said something that I personally think is so admirable, and it's definitely worth reiterating. And that was the fact that in the wake of not only COVID, but also a tornado, for those of you who are on campus and having to move and all these other things when it came to COVID, and we have some people, I think Khadijah is local, having to deal with these things when the tornado hit. You had an option. You had an option to tap out and say, you know what, I'm gonna take my ball and go home. And you didn't. When given an opportunity to show up and put forth effort and work, you guys opted to do that. And I just think that that's something great. It's something that we should definitely shine a spotlight on because you voted unanimously to continue working on your fellowship. And so it's because of your passion. It's because of people like yourselves that creating a better city for Black students and professionals to come, live, work, play is going to be possible. I'm going to allow our fellows to introduce themselves because I'm actually sitting on the edge of my seat because I'm ready to hear them talk. And so I'm going to ask them to come on and share with us really briefly, tell your name, where you're from originally, your major, what year or class you're in school, your future career plans. And we will start with Irvin Fisher. Irvin.
Thank you, Ms. LaQuisha. First of all, and Mr. Mayor, Mr. Burke. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight, this evening as well. My name is Irvin Fisher IV. I am originally from Nashville, Tennessee. I have been here since 2016, so kind of a resident, kind of not. But I am double majoring in entrepreneurship and marketing. And my future career goals, I aspire to be a independent business owner, but until then, upon graduation, I plan on working for a market department for a local company or business to solidify my foundation with my independent business ventures.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Irvin. Next, we'll hear from Eric.
Hey guys, thank you guys for being here with us this afternoon. It's been a long journey, but my name is Eric. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm a senior this year. I'm gonna be my 5th year in school, double major in engineering management and psychology. And I aspire to own my own engineering management firm in the social lounge, but until then, I will be working my way through the industrial and the construction career field.
Awesome. Thank you so much, my fellow Memphian / Chattanoogan, Eric. Y'all know I had to do it. All right. Next, we will hear from Tyrese.
Hey everyone, thank you for being here with us tonight and taking the time to listen to the things that we have to say. But my name is Tyrese Hobbs. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, studying entrepreneurship and interior design. And I am a rising senior, so I'm out of here in May. And my future career plans consist of being a serial entrepreneur. But until, in the meantime, I intend to just be open to different job opportunities and things of that nature. So, yeah.
Thank you, Tyrese. And he said he's out of here. He meant out of the school. He didn't mean out of Chattanooga, because we're going to work hard to keep Tyrese Hobbs here in Chattanooga. And so our next fellow, I'm actually not going to ask her to introduce herself in the traditional sense, because she actually was from the first cohort of L.Hutchins Fellows, Miss Khadijah Gordon. And so Khadijah, I understand that you were part of that original cohort, that inaugural cohort, who laid a lot of the groundwork and the fellowship overall framework. And so you're a native Chattanoogan, and so you were able to kind of splice in a lot of the local perspective into the conversation about inclusion. And so this semester you had an interesting role, am I right? You had an interesting role where you served in a leadership capacity to as a coach, as an implementation coach, to bridge the gap between your cohort's work, say that fast, and the one that we're currently seeing. So can you tell us a little bit about why you got involved in this work and how have you grown? And tell me something about your findings, your experience about being in this leadership role with Cohort 2 of L.Hutchins Fellowship.
Sure, thank you. Hi everyone. I know most of everybody here, but if you don't know me, I'm Khadijah Gordon. But so far, this has just been an amazing experience. It's been an honor to participate from the beginning of the fellowship until now. I have grown tremendously from just fall of last year, and I can see it in people don't let up on the chance to tell me that they can see it too, so I appreciate that. But transitioning from working on a team to guiding a team was a unique experience, and I hope I've done right by the fellows in that regard. I'm sure they would have told on me by now, I'm not, so. But thankful for those guys for just being an open ear and for, just listening to me and also teaching me as well. Some things that I did not know myself. So I don't know where I could have got this opportunity elsewhere, as a full-time student. So I'm grateful to Mayor Berg, the partners, and everyone who's become familiar faces to me right now, and been a great support system. But, just as a Chattanooga native, I was always frustrated, that my hometown was not a desirable city to not only people who were not from here, but also from other natives who were from here. There's a stigma around that, basically oh, she's still in Chattanooga or he's still in Chattanooga, like that. If you're still in Chattanooga, that's pretty much equates to not being successful as someone who may live in a big city or have a big job. So I definitely wanted to be a part of changing that narrative, and I'm grateful to So yeah, with Cohort 1, most of our work, and let me just make sure I shout out Dominique Malone, who is here, Ryan McDowell, and Marquise Tate. I miss you guys so much. It was so fun working with you all, and I know you're all doing great things right now, but yeah, those guys, we all, again, did a lot of the research and foundation where we saw that now is the time to start prioritizing, attracting, and retaining millennial talent. They say that the millennials are the bridge to the nation's diverse future, and we are starting to see that. And, you know, as Mayor Berg always says, the future runs on talent. And so that's why that's important. And so what you'll hear today will be building on some of the key findings of Cohort 1, like the fact that it's a top 10 priority amongst 85% of mayors in America, or that by 2040, the nation will be racially diverse in majority, which is why it's important for us to prioritize Black talent, because we are generally and historically less likely to be awarded the same opportunity as white counterparts. So with Cohort 1, we did a deep dive into that. We researched some migration trends of Black millennials, and we came up with some benchmark cities such as Houston, Atlanta, Charlotte, and some of the things these places have in common that we might find minuscule are determining factors on where Black millennials and millennials even as a whole will go. And that are some things like the presence of HBCUs, professional sports teams, ease of commuting, cultural district quality of place, and so much more. And so again, Cohort 2 had took it upon themselves to just build on that. So we'll hear some old and some new things that they came up with, and they wanted to focus on, you know, unifying UTC's diverse student body in Chattanooga's community through career-focused opportunities and a sense of belonging as their cohort legacy, and they came up with that themselves. So I'm excited to hear from them, and thank you all for being here, and I'll hand it back over to LaQuisha.
Thank you so much, Khadijah. It's always good to hear young people from Chattanooga talk about the city in which they were born and raised, and how much they love it, how much they want to pour back into it. I always love to hear those stories. Not being from Chattanooga, it's very optimistic on the part of people coming here when you hear people who are from here talk about it so adamantly and with such affection. So to that end, I want to talk to my fellas here, Tyrese, Irvin, and Eric. As you think about like coming here, right? Coming to Chattanooga, a city that's not your hometown. Talk to me a little bit. And this is a two-parter, and I think I'm going to start with Ty. Talk to me a little bit about your initial perception of Chattanooga moving here. You know, first time moving to a new city. Tell me how you felt about Chattanooga, and then talk to me a little bit about what made you pursue this opportunity of becoming a Styles L.Hutchins Fellow. So talk to me first about your perception of Chattanooga, you know, first onset moving here, and then talk to me about why you decided to pursue this fellowship. Ty?
Okay. Well, initially coming right out of high school, I felt like Chattanooga had this certain culture of being evolved around nature and outdoors, and it seemed to be like very appealing to those who enjoyed that type of exploration. And I personally had not had any experience with it, but I did try some hiking with some of my friends. But it was very different from Nashville when it came to like cultural activities. And I had perceived Chattanooga as an exclusive community where getting acclimated into the community outside of campus wasn't easy. It was really about who you know to gain access to social and professional networks. So I really stayed in my bubble. And my freshman year, I remember the only places I went when I left campus was Walmart on Signal Mountain, which is like 10 minutes from campus. And then I would go back to campus, and that would be the only time that I left campus. So that was my pretty much my perception of Chattanooga and the way I seen it, especially as a freshman. But I decided to pursue this opportunity because a fellow from Cohort 1, Marquise, he had told me about the opportunity, and I saw it as a way to come out of my bubble. And I really never saw myself as a person to work in government or even be in the mayor's office. Like, that was a big deal to me because it's like, one, I'm a business major alongside interior design, but here I am working in government and in the mayor's office, close to the mayor. So I really take pride in that, and the fact that it was to help people like me basically get the opportunity to be on the same playing field was another bonus. So that was my perception and reason for joining this opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tyrese. Eric, talk to me about your perception of Chattanooga, and then why did you decide to become a Styles L.Hutchins Fellow?
All right, so coming from Memphis, Tennessee, I really didn't know too much about Chattanooga. I honestly didn't I didn't plan on attending UTC until last minute, but when I got here, I heard that it was the gig city of creators, innovators, and that really stood out to me because I personally see that whatever you want to do, you have the opportunity to achieve that here in Chattanooga. And coming from Memphis, it just seemed like a different opportunity in my perspective. And being in a fraternity, I was able to network with a lot of Black people who are in leadership positions. And those people that are in those leadership positions, I see that that the companies, they show diversity, but do they really have inclusion? And that's a perception that I have on Chattanooga. And just Black people are being brought to the table, but they're still being slept on. So it's like they're seeing us, but they're still not hearing us. And that was one of the things that really stood out to me about this city. I was attracted to this fellowship because I wanted to become a better leader. I work with high schools here in Chattanooga, and I serve as a mentor. So I'm able to see firsthand how these students are not able to actually see beyond their neighborhoods, and it's kind of frightening because I was once one of those students, but I had someone to pour into me at a young age to show me that I can achieve things that was greater than what I see. So that really stood out to me, and I first heard about it through SSS. Miss G, she was the director then when I first heard of it, and it really just pulled me in. I applied the first year for Cohort 1. I didn't get it, but I stuck it through. I came back and I applied and interviewed for Cohort 2, and I'm here today. So that's why when I first said it's been a long journey. It's been a long journey, but this city taking this initiative just really stood out to me because, like I said, I was only seeing Black people in leadership positions, but their voice is not being heard. But this initiative just shows that there are other races who are hearing us or who are generally caring to see exactly our point of view and what are our needs to be on the same playing field.
Thank you, Eric.
Hey, LaQuisha, if I can just interrupt for 1 second.
Sure, man.
And I just, what always occurs to me as I hear Eric's and Ty's story is how much like that personal touch really matters and people reaching out and being involved. And then the second piece is how much the invitation matters. Mm-hmm. So it's like hearing them just saying, just because we asked and we said we were interested, how much that actually affected people. And so to think about it, obviously that's great for this, but how many other things are going on that, we're not doing the personal touches that we could do, and we're not getting out the invitation as loudly as we could. And so I just, as they were talking, I was just thinking about those things. Sorry to interrupt, LaQuisha.
Oh, you're fine, Mr. Mayor. And I was going to actually say something similar to that before we hear from Irvin. I think it's very important for you personally, Eric. One thing I heard was that even though you did not get selected for Cohort 1, you didn't stop, you didn't give up. And this is the thing, opportunities like these can't be flailing. They can't happen one year and go away the next year, because you have an Eric Barton who's still trying to, I'm not going to put somebody on the blast here who hadn't seen Hamilton, but they're not throwing away their shot, right? For all my Hamilton fans out there, they're not throwing away their shot. And so Eric is just trying to shoot his shot. And you know, if there's not another year of this fellowship, right, then he wouldn't have had a second opportunity to apply, and we would not be graced with the brilliance that he's going to continue to share with us tonight. So, Irvin, last but not least. Irvin.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Let's hear it.
All right.
What was your perception, and then why did you decide to pursue this fellowship?
So my perception prior to coming to Chattanooga was, well, what led me to want to attend UTC and come to Chattanooga was that I saw Chattanooga as a Nashville, but on a smaller scale. And in that sense, I saw it, I was thinking that it would be easier for me to connect with the community and to grow as a professional. And then as similar to what Ty said, the outdoors aspect Chattanooga has or embraces also attracted me to the city because I don't get that too much from my hometown in Nashville. But prior to what led me to want to pursue this opportunity was that my sister, she used to be a UTC student, but she currently she transferred to MTSU this past semester due to the fact that she didn't feel like that she belonged in Chattanooga. Whenever she would come off campus, she would feel like it just wasn't for her, like she belonged elsewhere. And then she would tell me that she felt that same way on campus as well. And when I heard about this opportunity through the SSS, which they send out emails very frequently, I said I had to. I can't have anyone else feeling like they don't belong anywhere, especially not my sister. But that was really the reason what led me to come here and try to make a difference in Chattanooga. And I thank the mayor for the opportunity that he's given us as well.
Thank you so much, Irvin. Eric and Tyrese, thank you for just sharing that. Sometimes it's difficult to talk about a perception because we understand sometimes perception isn't reality for everyone, right? And so there will be some people that are your colleagues on campus that may have a totally different perspective of Chattanooga than what you shared tonight. But I think it's very important to hear the voices that we heard tonight and how they've seen things, how opportunity has been afforded to them. And then for us to think through, how do we create more places, not for just diversity for the sake of diversity, but inclusivity, intentional inclusivity, so the voices not only are being heard, but are actually impacting and influencing our decision. To that end, Cohort 2. So y'all came on board, you know, the last week of January. At this point, it feels like January was like 37 months ago. I don't know what day it is. It's all messed up, but like you came on board the last week of January and you had to build on some amazing work from that inaugural fellowship cohort that came before you. And so you were basically charged with they had this plan to create and attract and retain, to create a plan to attract and retain Black talent in Chattanooga. And you were supposed to come along and build on that. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sitting here sweating for y'all because that's such a huge ask. That's such a huge lift being someone who's working adamantly in this community around diversity, equity, inclusivity. I know that this isn't an easy place to start your work, and it's certainly not an easy place to start your work as a college student. So I want y'all to talk to me a little bit about like, what was your approach to this work? Where did you begin? You know, the thing about, I like to use the whole elephant, you know, when people say, you know, you have to eat the elephant one bite at a time. And initially when I was your age, I used to think you just started real far back and you ran real fast and you just like jumped up on it like Velcro and just started biting. And that's not really how you're supposed to eat that thing, right? Like that's not. So as y'all think about your work and you think about how mammoth of a task this is, but how hopeful you are that you can make an impact, where did you begin? How did you execute and deliver under COVID, tornado, virtual, you know, not being able to convene together? Talk to me about where you began, how you executed, and delivered under so many challenges from like February to mid-March. And I'm gonna start with Eric.
Thank you, Lucretia. Well, yeah, we started in the last week of January, and I tell you, we were slammed from the first day until COVID came to happen to be. But we had meetings, so we had meetings like once every time we came into the office. It's like, we got to meet again, we got to meet again. To the point where it was like we just had a notebook full of notes, and so much stuff was just ideas, and we was like, okay, we need to start figuring out some things. But some of those meetings that we had were, we met with the Chattanooga Chamber of Commerce, of course. They are one of our partners in Urban League. And we met with the UTC Office of Multicultural Affairs with Stokes and Ms. Tara, Dean Tara there, Arts Bill, Raj Chattanooga, Young Professionals at UNUM. We met with the News Chronicle, which is the Black newspaper here in Chattanooga. So we had many meetings, a lot of different meetings to begin us off, and we was just able to, we learned how to work collaboratively as a team through these meetings, through personal development activities as well. Learning how to work in a political environment with us being in the mayor's office and having these different meetings with professionals and local employers, we was able to learn how to be in a professional environment as a Black person and just as a person in general. We learned the rich history of the Black success here in Chattanooga. We had weekly staff meetings that were fun because Mayor Burke used to take us to eat, and I love the grub, so I used to be out. They didn't give us no limits, so we just used to order. But we had a lot of meetings, but one thing that stood out in shaping what we wanted to do with our cohort legacy was when we met with the Chamber of Commerce. They pointed out that that diverse talent are attracted to join a workforce in cities where they feel a sense of belonging, one where there's a strong presence of unity in the community. And that's one of the phrases that is literally tied into our cohort's legacy. And we also have many professional development meetings. We had youth science where we learn each other's working capability to best achieve our goals. We had career thrives with Ms. Brittany Cole. We had a luncheon with EPB Young Black Professionals, where we were able to meet with the Black professionals in the workforce who were very close to our age. And we just had a real talk with them, and they just told us the unspoken truths about being Black and working in corporate America. So this is still before COVID. So we started at the end of January, and COVID happened right in March around spring break time. So this is short time span. We had a lot. So with these professional development sessions, we had even more meetings with the local employers. First starting off with Cohort 1, they met with Blue Cross Blue Shield to gain some research. We personally, Cohort 2, we met with UNUM and also EPB. And from there, we was able to gain knowledge and figure out how to plan projects, how to conduct research and build surveys, interpret data, design thinking skills, communication, and effective meeting skills. We was able to learn so much from those local employers to help us build our research to our cohort's legacy.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Listen, but we want to I want to hear these recommendations, but Eric, you just told us a whole lot. Like, I don't know if my calendar looks like that at the end of January, right? Any professional's calendar at the end of January doesn't really look like that. So what you guys were able to do in just prospecting what's out here to formulate your thoughts of how to begin this work was definitely to be recognized and is admirable. Ty, so you guys did all this research. You went out, you talked to everybody you could get to meet with you in the city. Talk to me just a little bit about the process of creating the vision and the planning.
Okay, so like Eric said, we were jam-packed with a bunch of meetings, had notebooks full of notes that we got a brand new notebook. It was halfway full within like 2 weeks. But what we did was we had to take a couple steps back and just see what we had to work with so far. And we started doing a deep dive into the recommendations given to us by Cohort 1. And we used that to create a legacy statement and vision for what we wanted to achieve in our cohort time. And after building a persona through the design thinking process, we kind of gauged the vision and legacy statement on what we wanted to do. So a little insight on how that works. So cohort 1, they were more so in the inspiration stage, where they were kind of doing all the groundwork, the research, and collecting all the data and whatnot. And then cohort 2 is in the ideation stage, to where we're taking all that research and all that data and placing it into, okay, this is what we can do, start planning and taking the proper steps to what we're trying to do, which is to retain Black students after they graduate from college. So cohort 3 would be an implementation stage, where they are actually implementing all the things that we put together, like our recommendations to them. They'll start trying to make them happen. So that's pretty much the steps that we did. We took steps toward unifying UTC's diverse student body and Chattanooga's community through a career-focused opportunities and a sense of belonging. So that's pretty much the process of what we did and like the end goal. So we had a vision, and now we actually know which direction we're headed. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Ty. So you have a vision, you talked to some people, y'all got together, cultivated. I'm sure if Candy Johnson or Katie Wells or Jermaine Freeman had anything to do with it, it involved a lot of Post-its, a lot of like sticky notes and colored charts. That is my shade to them. I love them. They work so hard. So I know you guys put a lot of thought into how you cultivated your plan. So Irvin, if you could, can you provide us just a little insight about what you learned? So like Ty talked about, kind of the process of gathering and organizing. Eric talked about the process of prospecting and tracing the landscape to see what's out there and who you guys could talk to and potentially partner with. Talk to me about like the research, the further research that you guys did and how it played into the recommendations that we're getting ready to hear about. You're still muted.
My apologies.
No worries, go ahead.
But so after going over the research done by Cohort 1 survey, we conducted a survey for young Black professionals in Chattanooga to identify if there are any parallels between their perspectives and the student perspectives. And what we came to find out was from the Cohort 1 survey was that the top 2 things that Black students said would improve their college experience and support their career goals would be paid internships and mentorships. And then from our survey, the Young Professional Survey, 96% of all the applicants said that mentorship played a vital role in their career performance. And so from that information, we decided to stick with the mentorship theme from Cohort 1's recommendations. And so, or not stick with, but to focus on that theme specifically. And we did that because we believe that the mentorship program that we have developed, or pilot that we have developed, would tie back into our legacy, which is to create a sense of belonging with the Chattanooga community by connecting mentors or mentees with professionals in the Chattanooga area. And then it would also give them career opportunities by helping their career development skills as well. Another finding that we had was our employer data collection survey, which was done by Eric, and that is to ensure that Black students have a centralized area where they can find what information they need to, or what criteria they need to meet in order to get certain paid internships, and which internships are paid and which are unpaid in the top local employers in the city. And Eric will talk a little bit about that shortly. And those were our findings that we had from the research.
Okay, awesome. So listen, you guys did a lot of work. I'm sure your cohort coach Khadijah, kind of helped you guys to think through the process by which you put pen to paper. And you have some amazing recommendations that you want to offer on tonight. And so what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to start with just highlighting the recommendation and asking each of you to kind of give us a little more insight about that particular recommendation, and how you came about it, and what we can expect from this recommendation. So I'll start with the first recommendation, and I see that recommendation is to the UTC Office of Multicultural Affairs, and you said that you would recommend that the UTC Office of Multicultural Affairs should strengthen relationships between Black students with local employers and also capitalize on opportunities for those who promote diversity and inclusion in recruitment and hiring practices. Eric, can you elaborate a little bit on that for us? That's a big recommendation.
Thank you, LaQuisha. Sorry, I was on mute, you guys. But yes, that is a huge recommendation that we got from Cohort 1. They first came up with it, but they said that we should strengthen and expand diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts at UTC. After doing a little bit, having research, after having our meetings with the local employers here in Chattanooga, we was able to dig up a little bit more findings and tweak that recommendation some more for Cohort 3, and we did come up with the UTC Office of Multicultural Affairs should strengthen relationships between Black students with local employers and also capitalize on opportunities for those who promote diversity and inclusion in recruitment and hiring practices. So this first part should strengthen relationships between Black students with local employers. Why do we say that they should strengthen the relationship between Black students with local employers? Mainly because in our findings and our meetings with some of the local employers here, we see the same trend, which is these employers have trends of a strong relationship that is prevalent within the Gary W. Rollins College of Business. And there was, like I said, evidence from our employer interviews. And a lot of Black students are not in the College of Business. That's just known. And we say we should partner with the UTC Office of Multicultural Affairs simply because they have graduate assistant positions there, and if we was able to partner with them, we would be able to build a relationship from these local employers, from these companies who are offering paid internships, fellowships, whatever the case may be, to be able to navigate those opportunities to the Black community. Like I said, now the Black community is in the College of Business. For example, I'm in College of Engineering, so there we go with that point. But also capitalize on opportunities for those who promote diversity and inclusion in recruitment and hiring practices. As I had said as earlier when I was speaking on, I have met Black people in leadership roles, in leadership positions here in Chattanooga. This is pretty much going along with that because those people who are in those leadership roles and in those opportunities, some may work for companies that promote hiring more Black people into leadership roles, and they put it on their websites and all, but the numbers don't reflect that. Even from our meeting with local employers, they've even said to us that they want their numbers to be better. And how do you do that? You just have to promote one to the Black community, and then be genuine about hiring those people. Also, something that stood out from Cohort 1 recommendation that we carried along to our recommendation for Cohort 3 was that 85% of Black students listed job opportunities as the #1 factor, influencing their decision to stay in Chattanooga post-graduation, and additionally 52% said that paid internships would improve their college experience. So 85% alone of students listed job opportunities because most Black students are typically working in college, and if you want an internship, you are going to look for a paid internship so you can be able to fulfill your gaining knowledge and experience in whatever career or interest field there may be. But if it's unpaid, it's like you try to turn away from it because you have responsibilities to keep up with. And for me to be an example, since I've came here, I had bills to pay on my own. So I've worked at Moe's. I've had many positions where it wasn't feeding into me gaining knowledge or experience to better me or to help me be able to better somebody else that's coming after me. So that's why that point stood out a lot. And overall, Black students had the highest percentage of disagreement when asked if Chattanooga had the type of career opportunities they are seeking after graduation, which plays back into the strengthening relationships between Black students with the local employers, because if they are able to build those relationships while an undergraduate, because we all know that technology can't build relationships. Like they can see a application and put in the application, but that's still just technology. That's not a face with a name or a soul with a body. That's just an application. That it is what it is. And another point that sticks with this point is that GPAs is, from meeting with some of the local employers, GPAs is definitely another thing that's being looked at. Most of the employers that we met with require a 2.75, and for the ones that are mainly paid, they require a 3.0. So out of the picture, a lot of Black people are not on the same playing field as their counterparts. So, and another thing that we are also recommending is that Cohort 3. Cohort 2 had created a Styles L.Hutchins Career Opportunity Questionnaire. And with this questionnaire, it's pretty much just creating a database that consists of questions that will answer what exactly are the career and internship opportunities that are being available for both Black undergraduate and graduate students, how much employers are paying talent, what is required, and the qualifications for the internship, the job opportunity, the fellowship, whatever the case may be. And with this questionnaire, we just want you guys, if we have the link, actually, I think Candy, if you can, may you please put it in the chat. But we have the link to the questionnaire that we wanted the employers to fill out so we can have a better sense of exactly what our employers consider to be talent and what are they willing to give to bring that Black talent in.
So before we leave that point, Eric, does anyone know off the top of your head from the data you guys collected through the survey what approximately what percentage of the number of area employers offered paid internships? Do we know that?
So from the data we collected from the survey, we haven't got any responses, but from our local employer meetings, like I said, we met with UNA, we met with EPB, we met with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I think we met with TVA as well. And from those meetings, we were able to ask those questions and ask the employers what were they offering and what were they considering to be talent, and what would they do to pay for talent, GPA requirements. We was able to get those answers from face-to-face interactions.
So that's a space even for Cohort 3 to figure out a way to communicate broadly on a regular basis where and what paid internships are made available to students, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And to provide a little bit of background, extra background on this recommendation, we talk a lot about perspectives. The initial survey that Cohort 1 did was the UTC Student Perspective Survey. And that survey provided a lot of research for us and for Cohort 2 on how to go about attracting and retaining Black talent. So one of the perspectives was that there are not very many opportunities for me here in Chattanooga. There's nothing for me here. Why do I need to be here? But then when we would meet with the employers in Chattanooga, the Blue Cross Blue Shields, the UNAMs, the EPBs, what we're hearing is, well, we do have these opportunities. We have relationships with UTC, and that's great. They've done a great job with doing everything that they can. But this recommendation just says, since we're focusing on students of color and Black students, and the Office of Multicultural Affairs is the centralized space where Black students go, where they feel comfortable, where they know they can talk to Stokes about anything under the sun. Let's have something like what the College of Business has with Ms. Irene Hillman. She does a great job with maintaining those relationships with the community and employers. And so this is just an extension of that, but it's centralized within the Office of Multicultural Affairs for students of color. And it's basically let's have a space for them to come and to be able to learn about what's going on in the community and what's out there and what's available, because the opportunities are there, but the perceptions are different. And so we just want to use this recommendation to basically bridge the gap between what is thought and what actually is.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Khadijah and Eric. So what I'm hearing from you both is there's an opportunity to bridge gaps and to replicate models that may be working in one vein, but that haven't necessarily been focused intentionally on another. So, shout out to the College of Business and the partnerships they've been able to make with major corporations and partners in our community. But if we are serious about retaining Black talent from UTC in many of our jobs that are available, what we're saying is we need to create a similar model, if in fact it is effective and it's boding well for both the student and the corporation. We need to be intentional through a layer of diversity and inclusion focus. Shout out to both Deidre McGee and so they keep saying Stokes, and I know everybody may not know Stokes, but shout out to Chris Stokes, who is with UTC. And so there's so many students that I've heard that relationship that you have with folks like Deidre and others, and Chris Stokes on campus is so important. So let's go ahead and move to the next recommendation. You guys said that you would recommend that UTC review and support implementation of a Styles L.Hutchins Fellowship, professional mentoring program. And with that, you're proposing not just a program, but a program accompanied by a all-inclusive toolkit that was created by your cohort, right? And it's scheduled to launch this fall. If fall happens, I don't know. It's COVID. We don't know what's going to happen. We might be in fall right now. We don't know. This is the Matrix. So I like to make them laugh, everybody. No, I gotta break them up a little bit. But you guys said that you put together a mentorship program and a toolkit. Can you talk a little bit about that for me, Irvin?
Sure. I mentioned a little bit about it earlier, but I'll go into a little bit more deeply. So the Styles L.Hutchins Professional Mentorship Program, it couples Black students at UTC that are in their junior and senior years seeking professional mentorship and development with business professionals that are looking for a way to give back to their community. And this is to just to assist students with the bridge between graduation and starting their career, their professional careers. And one of the reasons, or the reason why we came up with the idea of this professional mentorship program is all because of the inaugural Cohort 1's. They proposed 4 recommendations, and we saw that to strengthen and expand diversity and equity and inclusion in efforts at UTC recommendation, and we decided that would be our main focus. And also one of their themes was mentorship. And as I said earlier, we believe that this mentorship program could, at the same time, create a sense of belonging or increase the sense of belonging with Chattanooga's community with UTC students, Black students, as well as give them career opportunities in the city. So from the Cohort 1 survey, a majority of the white students that responded believe that UTC actually prioritized diversity and inclusion. That majority percentage is about 62% of people who took the survey. And on the other side, less than half of Black students shared the same sentiments with their white counterparts. And that half percentage is, or less than half percentage is 36%. And so with this, we believe that with this program, we believe that this would increase the students' perception that UTC is actually doing something towards their professional and professional career development. So might ask, why is this there? Might ask, there are a lot of different mentorship programs at UTC or around the area. And before building this out, I did some research of what mentorships were offered at UTC. And I came across the GUIDE program, which is offered through the OMA office, or Office of Multicultural Affairs at UTC. But this is just a mentorship program that is geared toward freshmen. And there is also a first gen mentor program that is geared toward first generation students who are freshmen in comparison with staff and faculty students. So those are a mentorship program that's pairing them with someone else that is with the UTC. And there's also the mock-up program. And that is a one-week program that is for the summer to get students acclimated to college life from coming out of high school, graduating high school. So essentially this would, the mentorship, L.Hutchins mentorship program would be the other side of college for the mock-up, like you see what I'm saying? I'm rambling right now.
You're good. You're not
trying to do a comparison. But there also is a business mentor program that is offered in the College of Business. And that is a professional mentoring program, but that is only offered to a select amount of students, or it might not be offered to, there aren't students who know about the opportunity because it is based out of the College of Business. And there's also the career mentoring program from the Office of Alumni Affairs. And this is just a mentoring program that gets them in touch with UTC alumni in order to help with career choices. So again, our program would give students an opportunity to have direct connections to diverse professionals in the community and to obtain professional development close to their introduction and into the professional world.
So thank you, Irvin. We have a question here from a fellow mock student who has a question around this conversation of bridging the gap. And they said, how do we bridge the gaps between students who don't meet the academic requirements that these internships are asking for? Many economic, physical, and mental factors come into play that may affect their academics as well as their stay in Chattanooga for the long run. So how do we bridge that gap? Khadijah, I'm going to throw this one to you, and then Irvin, I'm going to come back to you to kind of close us out on that. Give me like one or two ways of how we bridge the gap for students who don't meet the academic requirement that maybe the internships are asking for.
Sure. First, we can recommend to the employers that we have relationships with that they reconsider the GPA requirements that they have in place now, because as we have seen from our research that especially students of color, they're more likely to work during school, whereas their white counterparts are not as likely to have a job while they're in college. And so we know, working affects your GPA. We know that other socioeconomic factors that more likely historically generally affect Black students don't tend to affect the white counterparts as much, even though we do have all students. So just reconsidering that and thinking about the whole student, and not just looking on paper, because even the L.Hutchins Fellowship, I mean, there's a GPA requirement, but I don't believe it is as high. And it kind of, when you have the 3.0, 3.5 GPA requirements, of course, you want students who are capable academically, but we don't believe that GPAs are a reflection of a student's academic ability. It encompasses so many different other things. And I think that as if there are any HR people here, anyone, just reconsider that for students in the future, because we have thought about that, Jacoby, and that's a good question, and that's one of our concerns as well.
Okay. Irvin, you wanted to add to it?
Yes, so I was gonna say what Khadijah has said, that maybe we could recommend that employers lower the GPA or get rid of the GPA requirement in total. But for instance, I'm one of the people that Khadijah is speaking of. I've worked full time since I've been here, and this is my first internship solely because of the GPA requirement wasn't as high as the other paid internships. And so that's all I want to say, that is a true statement. That is how it is, and for the Black community, from my experience and perspective.
So I think, thank you, Irvin and Khadisha. I think, the Stiles-Hutchins requirement is GPA-wise is a 2.5. I think is the requirement. Being that, so I come from a family of preachers and teachers, and so education was always held high. I think it's important that we give clarity around this conversation of GPA and not intellectual ability. I said a quote one day on another panel I was on actually last week, and I said, it's an Einstein quote that says, if you judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree, it will spend its entire life feeling that it's inadequate. And so we understand that there are systems that measure different types of intelligence. Our higher education structures are not necessarily set up to measure all of those different levels of intelligences. And so I don't think that what we're saying is that we need lower bars for students of color. That's not what we're saying. But we are saying that there are different types of intelligences. There are different types of socioeconomic impediments and obstacles that maybe people have to overcome. And of all racial groups, but specifically talking about Black students here who are juggling a lot of things that maybe their counterparts are not, and that we should consider those things. I think I want to be very intentional with making sure that we highlight that, because we don't want anyone walking away thinking that Black students are not brilliant, bright beings, because you are, as you guys are displaying here today. So I'm going to move into the third and final recommendation that you have around the city of Chattanooga. The city of Chattanooga establishing a stronger social and cultural climate by developing a month-long annual celebration of diversity and inclusion, a permanent cultural and minority business corridor alongside that East Martin Luther King Boulevard corridor that runs alongside of the campus. And I'm going to tie that. I definitely want you, Tyrese, to kind of talk about this here in a second, but I want to tie it into a little bit of the commentary and questioning that I'm seeing happen in the chat. One of the statements is around, I just referenced the bars, and so someone talked about, I think it was David Steele, talked about the fact that, it could be that those bars are set arbitrarily, and they serve no legitimate purpose other than to exclude a certain type of student. And so I think it's important to recognize that we still have a lot of injustices, inequities, and intentional discriminatory practices that exist in many systems, not just in the universities or higher ed system, but in many systems. So in the wake of everything that's happening, not just in our city, but in our country, with the aftermath of George Floyd's murder, and how we've been responding. Again, I think this was David again, he said, Chattanooga is kind of fertile ground for some of these recommendations that you guys are making right now, based on the work of Cohort 1. You put forth a great recommendation here. And it goes to this sense of belonging. What does it mean to belong to Chattanooga as a Black student, as a Black citizen? Talk to me a little bit about your findings around this recommendation for creating a greater sense of belonging for Black professionals. Tyrese?
Okay, so this is going to take a little minute.
That's okay. You got 6 minutes.
So, the cohort, the fellowship, the Stiles L.Hutchins Fellowship, has 4 main themes that we focus on: is the student socioeconomic backgrounds, mentorship, professional networks, and career opportunities, and belonging, representation, focusing on representation, social and cultural inclusion. So, with a lot of the research that comes from the surveys, both the UTC perspectives and UTC student perspectives and the Black Young Professionals surveys, we've seen overlap in the sense that you can feel socially connected through many different socially connected to the city and both to the school as well, but more so as the city as you get involved in many different leadership groups or professional groups with the Urban League or the Chamber of Commerce, or for example, I'm in the fraternity Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, but having that bridge that closes the gap to where you can get socially connected with other people that's in the city that you're in doesn't mean that you feel culturally connected. But you know, there's different ways that culture is seen. So, for example, we have a main point right here that 55%, more than half of young Black professionals responding to Cohort 2's and Professional Perspective Survey disagree with the statement that I feel culturally connected to the city. But at the same time, there was a higher percentage that they did feel socially connected, and that is being the point that they have other networks and avenues to where they can socialize within the community. Therefore, we also have those benchmark cities that Khadisha had spoken on earlier, which included Houston, Charlotte, and Atlanta, which are more so the cities that college students seek to move to right after they graduate college because they see a lot of opportunity for growth and career advancement, and they feel like they belong there socially and culturally. But we had planned a trip to Houston before COVID happened and whatnot. We were going to go down there and see the different things that brought people to those cities. Like, for example, their schools, their sports teams, the culture of the city, the government, literally all that stuff played a part into it. And in doing research about Houston, we had found out that April was their diversity month, where they celebrated everyone being diverse and included everyone in many types of events and whatnot. So that's where that part, we want to get a stronger social and cultural climate to where everyone feels like they belong in the city, and not only socially talking to people and whatnot, but culturally. Like it's a different feel once you feel culturally connected to a city. So that's why we kind of want to recommend the development of a month-long annual celebration of diversity and inclusion to include everyone and make it a little bit easier for people to feel like they culturally belong in a city. Only 34% of Black students at UTC responding to the Cohort 1 survey said they could see themselves living in Chattanooga after graduation. And that more so appeals to the cultural aspect. And we had an open-ended question in the Cohort 2 survey with the Black young professionals asking, asking them about social connection to the city and also cultural. We asked them an open-ended question about what could help bridge that gap of not feeling that void of cultural connection to the city. And a lot of the responses included like cultural street festivals, R&B soul lounge, or coffee shops, concerts.
Oh, we lost you.
Food festivals as well, MLK revitalization.
Tyrese, I think your ear pod is going out.
Because in history, what we have learned through meeting with
Okay, so Tyrese, I think your ear pod may be going low, but I think you were rounding up. So if you want to.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I wanted to highlight something Tyree said, that there's different ways that culture is seen. And we've seen that through survey responses. We've seen that through focus groups and just from conversations amongst ourselves and our friends that, and that's important because Black culture encompasses so many things. It's music, it's film, it's art, it's nightlife. And in my opinion, that is what separates Chattanooga from these other cities that are attractive to young professionals, young Black professionals. I think that's one of the most important and one of the main things, and the research shows that is one of the main things that separates us.
Thank you, Khadijah.
Mm-hmm.
So we are wanting to respect the time of everyone who has jumped on. We will. There was one final question that I do want to allow space for around this topic around of belonging and culturally feeling comfortable. So we'll allow people to answer that in the aftermath. If anyone wants to stay on to address that, we'll do that in what we're going to call the after party of this call. But I think it's important for us to realize these young people have given us a big charge in terms of their recommendations. One from, the university perspective, looking at that Office of Multicultural Affairs also as a partner to corporations, the way that the business school is a partner to corporations, and being intentional about filling the pipelines with brilliant Black talent to connect them to paid internships. Also, UTC looking into implementing the mentorship program with a toolkit that they've created here with Cohort 2 fellows. And then thirdly, externally looking at the more larger, broader context of the city of Chattanooga and developing a month-long annual diversity and inclusion week that really can talk to people feeling like they're not just an accessory to the city, but they're an asset to the city. I think it's extremely important when you go anywhere that you feel like you belong. Dr. Beverly Tatum wrote a book called "Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria?" And the one of the major hypotheses of that book is that we sit with people, we commune with people, we do business with people where we feel a sense of belonging. And so we hear these students saying, Chattanooga, we need a space. We occupy a space here in the city. Our campus takes up a significant space in the downtown corridor. And as the African-American Black student population on campus, we would like to see representation in close proximity from a cultural perspective. And so that's not undoable, guys. I think that what you guys have put forth to the community and to the university for all the wonderful things that UTC are doing, I think that it is extremely admirable for you to come on with the boldness, the intellect, and the brilliance in your recommendation, and taking the time to have tough conversations, but doing the work to back up the justification for it. So tonight, I want to thank you. I want to applaud you for your hard work. It has not been easy in the middle of a pandemic to talk to as many people as you talk to create surveys, to administer surveys, to disaggregate the data when you get back the survey, and then to be able to put a presentation together and stand before people who aren't your peers, but people who are probably old enough to be your parents and say, Chattanooga, for your Black students' sake, we have to do better. I applaud you. You guys are amazing. I love you all. I got some jokes for y'all in the private chat when we finish. But at this time, I want to turn it over to one of our wonderful sponsors. The Chattanooga Chamber of Commerce has a representative here in the amazing Darian Scott. And so Darian, if you could just close us out, and I'll pop back on to kind of facilitate the after party for literally 7 minutes because I'm hungry.
Oh man, thank you, LaQuisha, and thank you guys for having me. As a native Chattanoogan and on behalf of the Chamber, I want to thank Mayor Burke, the entire staff, and definitely a shout out to Candy and Katie for organizing and putting the Style L.Hutchins Fellowship together in such a quickly time manner on the first cohort. But that type of intentionality gives us a reason to be here with you guys, and we definitely want to thank each one of you, Irvin, Eric, Tyrese, and Khadijah. It means a lot to go into these type of programs, putting the energy in, doing the research, and you guys are coming up with some great information. I'm glad you guys are disseminating it like that. The Chamber, we value inclusion. We just had diversify, and we really turned the notch up on it. We want to implement new strategies to hold more conversations and not just have the conversations, create action steps to show more diversity and equity and inclusion in the Chattanooga area with jobs and everything that comes with that. But for everyone listening on the call, I got 3 action steps to take away. First and foremost, connect with the mayor's office. We want you guys involved. We want the people listening on this call, we want you involved. The mayor's office, myself, or any of our advisory board members get connected. Second of all, we all know how powerful having a professional mentor. We all know how powerful having a professional mentor is. It's very important. So we are challenging everyone on this call, get involved. The Styles L.Hutchins mentorship program starts in the fall. They'll be taking on some young Black juniors and seniors from UTC. We need the involvement from everyone that's listening. And last but not least, as a community, we have to remember to continue the conversation. It's not going to be easy, but we have to keep the conversation going, and we got to keep fighting for what's right, and that's going to be inclusion. So with that being said, we want to thank everybody for joining us and be the difference you want to see. And I just want to pass it back over to LaQuisha. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darian. This actually officially concludes. We did put up some recommendations for Cohort 3 as we pass the mantle on to the next crew of Styles L.Hutchins Fellows. We know that this work is ongoing and it's going to take all of us. There's no one cohort or no one entity that can achieve the things that we want to see in terms of diversity, inclusion, and equity in our city. And so recommendations for Cohort 3 can include everything around continuing support of advocacy for improvements around mobility, removing barriers around housing, and then creating a digital resource guide for diverse newcomers. I think it's so funny, this third one though, y'all, I gotta leave on a joke because that's kind of where I am right now today. I'm in a pretty good mood. And so I remember being in school, not at UTC, and so this is 20 years ago or something like that, before apps. And I just remember saying, I sure wish somebody had a guide to all the Black hairstylists in Clarksville, Tennessee, because coming from Memphis, it was a struggle trying to find somebody to do my hair, right? And so this is a one-step stop shop for faith-based institution. Where do I go to church? Who has Black-owned businesses? How maybe I can create my own opportunity, but I don't even know where to start, right? I don't even know where these businesses are. And so, Eric.
Yeah, so with this, we already recognize that there are probably 4 websites that already offer where you can go eat at a Black restaurant, whatever the case may be. There are some, but what we're recommending is that something is created that combine all those different entities into one that would be time relevant, up to date, and it's something where if I was to come into UTC as a freshman in August, if I was to go look at it, I would go see it, and the place is closed because those websites are not up to date. We got Chattanooga Black, so another one like.
You gotta call them out. You ain't gotta call them out.
But yeah, so we have those different websites, but what we recommend is just that we update it and just bring all those different entities into one, so it can be literally a one-stop shop for who's ever, even for tourists who's just coming for the weekend, to be able to see, okay, I'm Black, I want to go experience Chattanooga in a cultural way. What is there for me to do? Or what is there for me to eat? Or what is there for me to see? So that's what their recommendation is hitting at.
Thank you, Eric. So we have officially concluded. I do want y'all to stay on. Thank you to the partners. Thank you to the city mayor and his entire staff who's helped to elevate the voices of these amazing young people. If y'all can stay on, a few people have some questions. If y'all want to field a few questions, we'll do this kind of popcorn style. So Michael Walton wants to know, can y'all give any examples of times that you've been made to feel culturally comfortable in other cities? So talk about like maybe where you're from, or if you've lived somewhere else, give examples of those times when you felt culturally comfortable? Like, what were you doing? What's the experience? That kind of stuff.
Uh, I can start on that. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. More so like North Nashville, but feeling culturally connected. What it felt like in Nashville was more so like we having places or community centers where like even me and all my friends we could go there and just kick it and whatnot and not feel um out of place, and like also other places like food places where we can go knowing that we can go there and not feel like we're being judged or out of place. Like we actually feel like we belong there. I feel like that's what that cultural connection it more so feels like. So that's my input on the cultural connection piece.
Anyone else want to tackle that?
Hey, I'll tackle it. But yeah, Memphis in Africa in April, they have Africa in April. They also excuse me, they also have Memphis in May. So you have 2 months of the year where it's like in Africa in April, you have all different types of vendors that is right off bill. So you have tourists who come for Africa in April just to, experience the African culture, buy African lotion, African jewelry, whatever the case may be, and then you can go right over the bill and just get that experience of downtown Bill Street, barbecue, blues. So it's just a cultural experience, and like I said, they do that 2 times a year: Africa in April, and then Memphis in May. And both of those, they bring out R&B, hip hop artists, country artists. They bring out every genre of artists of music that you might want to hear. So that is what I have experienced as far as it goes to that question.
For me, for back in Nashville, a couple of things that make me feel culturally connected is like some of the events they hold, like the African Street Festival, which is held on Broadway, the jazz festival. We have the Hot Chicken Festival, and then they're building African History of African American Music Museum, yep, in Nashville. And so it's just like and then they also have like, besides Nashville, other places like Houston, Atlanta, Charlotte. They have like sports teams or things that we can go do that, like things you can go hang out with your friends and go do that you see like happen back at your hometown. And so that's kind of how I see it.
So let me ask y'all another question, almost similar to that, but a little bit different from a generational lens. So David still asked, so do you perceive generational differences in our community, or are young Chattanoogans the same as older Chattanoogans? So as we're thinking about, in respect to community, is our community ready to deal with, what we're talking about in terms of identifying racial injustices, all of the feelings that everybody's feeling right now around the aftermath of George Floyd and the civil unrest in our nation, but let alone in our city. Is there a difference? Are you seeing difference in our community as it relates to young Chattanoogans? Are they just like the older Chattanoogans? Do y'all see a difference?
I'll start off with this one. I see a difference. Not saying that everybody in the older generation is, the same or not, but like I noticed a difference between the younger generation and the older generation. I used to work in a high-end restaurant in Chattanooga, and I would be around a lot of the older generation, and I guess the vibes I would get would be a lot more different than the ones I would from the young generation. I think that's because a lot of them aren't from Chattanooga, the young generation. I feel like a lot of people come here just to leave from their hometown. So I feel like the young generation is more open to meeting people and different experiences and new and not by the book type of things because they are new to Chattanooga. But the people I have met from Chattanooga that young people, they are pretty different, open, cordial, but I'm not saying that all the old generation is not cordial or.
You don't have to clean it up. Your reality, your reality.
Yeah, but the perception, the feeling I get when I walk in downtown, see a group of people, I'm thinking I'm just keeping my head straight, and but that's just how I don't know. it's how it is downtown, I guess, just because it's a lot of more old people downtown. But anywhere else, you know, I'm probably more comfortable to speak, probably more comfortable to do a lot of other things.
Eric, you think younger generation, older generation, Chattanoogan, does it matter?
It's hard to answer that because I don't really like just be around older generation people who are from Chattanooga. But I have met a lot of older people who live in Chattanooga, and those people that I meet, I mean, I'm indifferent to. I don't really think that they genuinely show that they care whether or not this is brought to the surface and actually being talked about. But living here, going through the racial injustice, I actually went out to march and I seen a lot of young people. I mean, of course, other people not gonna be marching, but I seen a lot of young people just supporting the cause, and it just showed that the city is this. Is some type of unity here in the city, and just the fact that it's being brought to everybody's attention is making people actually be real. It's making people either gonna step up and be for the cause and show that you pushing for what's right, or if you're not, you're just gonna hide in your shell as you've been doing before. So I'm kind of indifferent to it because it's pretty much like if you was one way before, you the same, but it's just to the point where it's surfaced now where like I can feel and I can sense when someone is like all for me versus when someone is just speaking to me just to get me out their face. So I can sense it now.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Khadijah?
I'm laughing at Ty, but I'll say that, you know, you have a lot of people who are complacent, and that's within any generation. Those people who feel like nothing you do is going to change anything, like it always is going to be the way it is, and there's nothing that you can do about it. I remember getting comments like that about, you know, when we wanted to reimagine East MLK as a cultural hub. You know, so many people have tried to do that before. Like, what you're doing is no different. Like, you know, we've been down this road. It's not going to change. We'll just have to wait until it gets too expensive to buy that. So, you know, you have naysayers, you have your negative Nancy's, the people who don't see the future, and then you have the game changers, the people who are willing to put in the work and who actually, you know, are innovators and are leaders and who can see that that there's a difference to be made. So, and I think that's within both generations.
Ty, did you want to say something? No, you good? All right, listen. I think I fielded all the extra questions that came through. You guys are amazing. Ty, you have a potential lead man in the chat from Michael Walton, who is the CEO. He wants to talk to you. He's dropped his email address. So if Katie, if one of you guys can grab Michael Walton's email address for Ty, Michael Walton wants to talk to you about interior design. So, you know, go ahead. Go ahead.
I saw that Miss Karen McReynolds had asked a question. Has anyone, I don't know if we answered it or not, but has anyone, it says, has this experience inspired anyone to want to go into public service?
Yeah.
I'll just say for me personally, it doesn't want to make me work for government, but it does make me want to be more active in public, like in the community per se. So that would be my public service, would be being more of an advocate for things that my community needs, but I probably wouldn't be in the government job or setting per se.
Okay.
But definitely always a public servant though.
Thank you, Irvin. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you again to everybody who's still here, especially if you're still here, you're still listening. Hi, Daniel. I just wanted to shout you out. I saw you there. Indeed. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right. Well, thank you, amazing young people. Keep doing it. We need you. The future is in your hands. We're passing the mantle. we're all connected. You're standing on the shoulders of some amazing people who stood on the shoulders of some more amazing people who stood on the shoulders of some even greater amazing and more amazing people. So the struggle continues, the work continues. Keep loving one another, love yourself, drink some water, and take a deep breath and realize that every day counts. And so everything you're doing, there's going to be someone 4, 5, 6 years from now in the seats that you guys are sitting in, and they're going to be so grateful that Eric, they're going to be grateful that you kept trying and that you keep striving. Ty, they're going to be grateful that you got new ear pods, because the ones you got now are janky. Irvin, they're going to now just listen, seriously, they're going to be grateful for all the hard work that you guys are putting in. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me